Yo, yo.
What's going on? What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Bitcoin Bros coming back at you guys with another live stream today.
Back
Me and,
at it.
me and Sean here today with you guys. We're going to be doing these live streams every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to put it on your calendars. We'll be going over Bitcoin news, strategy news, any crypto news. We got a lot to get into today. So just trying to keep you guys brought back up to speed as best as we can. Like and subscribe, help push us out to other people. We're trying to grow our channel, but also grow the brand of Bitcoin and MicroStrategy through education. So hopefully, guys, you can do that for us. And also, we will be at the Bitcoin conference in a couple of weeks. So if you are there, come and say hi. Do not be shy. We'll be there. And this is actually it's my second conference. This is Sean's first. And we have something big coming soon for you guys to the channel. Be paying attention for that. We have something big coming out pretty soon. But let's go ahead and get into it today. I'm going to pass it to Sean. He's going to get into some Bitcoin charts, some crypto charts. Let's go ahead and check out some of those charts, Sean.
Okay, give me a second here. Okay, we're going to take a look at the Bitcoin price chart. So right now, right below 104, Bitcoin has been consolidating above 100,000 for quite a few days. 100,000, as you all are well aware, is that psychological level that we need to, keep an eye on. But what we see just straight bullishness in the charts, and we talk about this every day in videos. So if you guys tune in, we appreciate your support. But as you know, the price action can change, hour to hour, day to day. But we're still putting in higher lows and higher highs. Even with this pullback, this is extremely bullish price action, and we're just consolidating right underneath previous all-time highs. And on the macro, let's get rid of that blue line there. Once again, we see this big inverse head and shoulders. This could be a huge cup and handle. You can look at this quite a few different ways, but we had the breakout, went up to about 109,000. And then this is a textbook back test, flipping resistance, 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 breakthrough, flip it to support. And this is going to be that bump and run continuation to the upside. So could we potentially come back down here and retest this again? We've been seeing that on X and some Twitter spaces. Some people have been calling for that. Is that out there a possibility? Nothing's 100% in markets, as you're well aware. But even if this does occur, this is once again another buying opportunity to the level to pay attention to. If we zoom into this price action, if this pullback did occur, would be where these candle body closes were around the 78,000. If we break structure and then put a lower low in, that 78,000 threshold, an actual candle body close at 78,000, that's, when you sort of want to re-strategize and, maybe take some chips off the table to reposition. But looking at this price action is healthy, it's bullish. Will we have a continuation break to the upside? Could we get a brief retest before blasting off? Nobody knows 100%, but as you see, this is on a macro time frame. So this cup and handle, the cup started forming in the peak November of 2021. So that's almost going on 4 years now. So the longer the pattern has been forming, the more likely it is to play out. But if this does play out, where does this technical target take us up to? Once again, you pull from the bottom of the neckline up to the lid of the cup, or inverse head and shoulders, however you're looking at this chart. It's sort of tailored up. We had the back test. So we're going to pull this up to the back test, not the back test, the breakout point, to see where this target will take us up to. And this is a huge target. This is up to around $330,000. So how are we going to get that high? This is all going to be indicative of institutions, nation states, state level Bitcoin legislation going into place. all that's going to drive, markets higher. So as long as there's no black swan event that occurs, and we're seeing the buy pressure that we're seeing now globally, with institutions, M2 money supplies are all going up and to the right. That's the technical target, what we see. So this is on the weekly. Let's look on the daily. Remember what we said in the short to midterm. The level we want to pay attention to is at $100,000 level. That's the psychological level. A lot of people have been paying attention to it. As you see, back in 2024, December, we got up to it, tested it, broke it, actually had a couple candles on the daily close above it, but that couldn't sustain. We ended up falling back below it, back test, had a retest, fall back, got above it, and then this did that McDonald's M pattern for you. And, we love to see you smile, and we fall down. And people were calling for the bear market to start right here. But on the macro, we showed you the Elliott waves. That's not the case. This was the third leg. This was an ABC retracement. And right now, this should be the fifth leg that we're in right now. So we had this double bottom pattern play out. Oop, I'm sorry. You guys are still looking at the Bitcoin price chart. I was showing this on the daily. So just to recap really quick, this is that double top I was showing you back in December. We fell down. That's when a lot of people were calling for the bull market peak. And right here, we then double bottomed out and then had a back test up past that $100,000 level. This orange line is that $100,000 threshold that you just need to be mindful of. And right now, if we see how many days we've actually been above that, had a candle close back in December, we only stayed above it for not even a week before we had a candle close. And then in January, this was the Trump pump. We seen, once we got the first candle close above it, we stayed above it for, it looks like, a little over 2 weeks, and then fell back below. So third time's a charm. One thing to be mindful of when looking at this chart are the moving averages. So as you see right here, the moving averages are very, very extended. So these moving averages are just oscillators. They're going to extend, and then they're going to retract and come back together. And that's just the nature of them. They're not ever going to just stay extended forever. So when you see a lot of space in between these moving averages, that's when you sort of got to say, okay, we got to have a cool off. We got to, have price action, just chill out for a little bit so we can reset. And that happens every single time. If we look back in the charts, we see back here, this was early 2024. We had this rally up to about the $73,000 range, extremely overextension of these moving averages. Then they had to come back, reset. The 20 has to cross back over the 250. And that's typically, how you'll see it in sideways chop. Why these reset before you have the continuation. 20 is the green line, and then rinse and repeat. So we had that blast off, that overextension, sideways chop, drop. This was a corrective wave action here, and now the green line, the 20 moving average, has crossed above both the 50 and 200, and the bullishness continues. So rinse, repeat. So right here, when people were calling for the bear market, there were levels to pay attention to. Could the bear have been in? There was a possibility, but as you see, levels held, and we got back above the moving average and stair-stepped our way out the depths. But right now, this price action seems extremely bullish. Just look at this 20 moving average crossover, both of these, and it's acting just as a trampoline. Every time the price action gets close to it, we bounce off of it, and we're eventually going to go into price discovery. And how high will we go? We showed you the macro look. Will that happen this year, that $330,000 target? Potentially. Will it happen next year? We could have an elongated cycle. You just got to wait to see what the market gives you. Nobody can time the market. Remember, time in the market is always going to be trying to time the market. So that's on the daily chart. And then just to recap really quick, the Bitcoin dominance we touched base on last week in our live stream. Last week, we were up to about the 64% range, and right now, 63.2. We did see some alts sort of have a rally against Bitcoin over the past week. But once again, you see this 20 moving average has crossed over both the 50 and 200, and the Bitcoin dominance is just sort of using this as support. We had brief breakdowns, but got right back above it. With this fall down, if we zoom in, we can see we still are holding above this moving average. And when we fell down, this is getting bought up. So this seems to be somewhat, just continuation or bullish price action for the Bitcoin dominance as well. As much as people don't want to hear that, that's just how it looks until it doesn't. Will alt season come? Could alt season come and start over the next month? That could be a probability, but right now we'd have to see this dominance fall below that 20 moving average and start to see these moving averages curl back over. So like how we did here. And when it moves quickly. You climb up the stairs and then you fall off the elevator here. You just fall down to the floor. So when it falls, it'll fall quickly. So just keep that in mind. Right now, we don't see any indication that Bitcoin is slowing down. Once again, barring, there being some extreme positive news on some of the alts, some of the bigger alts, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, this could cause the alt rally to continue and Bitcoin dominance to then decrease. But that is still, just speculative until it's not. Right now, the upper level to pay attention to for the Bitcoin dominance, once again, is that 72% threshold. So could we just keep stair-stepping our way up to there? That's definitely a possibility. So in talking about that, let's take a look at the ETH Bitcoin chart and what can we see? What do we anticipate? So right here, looking at these orange lines, these are the Bitcoin halvings. And you can see that Ethereum tends to outperform Bitcoin within a year to a year and a half's time after the halving. So we had this pullback and then a rip up to the upside. Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin severely. That was in the 2017 rally. Bitcoin went up against Bitcoin. I'm sorry, Ethereum went up against Bitcoin almost 1,900%. So that was a huge gain. And then after the 2020 halving, we seen ETH then rally against Bitcoin about another 270%. And after the 2024 halving, we haven't really seen that. Will it come? And when will it come? Once again, you get to look at the moving averages. And after the 2021 halving, this moving average was primed to come back up and cross the 50. But we just had the 20 cross over both the 50 and 200, and that's been acting as resistance for the price action of ETH. And then if you look at this horizontal that sort of is trending upwards, you see that Ethereum, we started tracking this back in 2016, but Ethereum blasted through this, came back, retested this level here, got rejected, got through it and came back and back tested that level twice. And then once we got back to that level, we didn't hold it, fell through it, and now we're back testing it. So right now, the way this moving average is looking, it looks like Ethereum maybe could have some more bleed, but there's been a lot of blood in the streets. So there's no guarantee there. We want to see it get back above this horizontal. We want to see it get above these moving averages and retest these levels. So that's just what we see on the ETH Bitcoin dominance. Just using ETH as that benchmark. MicroStrategy's charts are looking pretty good. There's been a lot of noise about the ATM. People need to lay off of Saylor. I think Saylor knows what he's doing. He's actually, formulating a brand new market. He's revolutionizing the traditional finance space. And you have a lot of people that, let's just be PC and say, don't have as much experience as him. And they're sort of bashing the team for hitting the ATM. But what they're failing to realize is as they accumulate more Bitcoin per share, hitting the ATM, if you want to sit there and cry about that, that's really just like coiling the spring. because once Bitcoin shoots up to 500,000, a million, $2 million plus, that's when this stock is going to melt faces, because right now they're just supercharging the Bitcoin per share. But looking at this, you really can't sort of make out what to expect, technical targets and such. Looking at this on the macro as far as strategy goes, it looks like some type of funky inverse, and I'm sorry, cup and handle pattern that has been forming since the early 2000s. If you want to go with that, you can. That'll be an astronomical price target. I think it's somewhere upwards of like 20,000. Will the price action do that? From where it would be right now, it's around 400. So a 20,000 will be $20,000 per share without any splits. You're talking about a 50x from right now. Hoping my math's right. Yeah, I think so. So that'd be like a $5 trillion threshold for a strategy. Can strategy get there? Yes, most definitely. Just do the math. Where do you think the Bitcoin price is going to go? How much Bitcoin do you feel like they're going to have? Multiply it. How much premium is going to be on that? And like, it's definitely has the possibility to be the highest valued equity or security in the world when it's all said and done. It won't happen overnight, but yeah, this can definitely hit that target. If you want to just, you guys can do that yourselves, but that's on the macro. Let's look on the lower time frame. So we're looking on the 2-week on this chart. We'll look at the weekly just to see. And this looks very healthy. We can look and see there is some divergences that are playing out. But the MACD is crossing up, the price action's holding above. It's just stair stepping its way up, it's doing its thing. So, we're bullish on strategy as well. Big news that we're going to turn to right now, we're going to look at Coinbase. For those that have not heard, we'll talk about the Coinbase news in more detail here in a minute, but they just got listed on the S&P. Salute to Brian Armstrong. Shout out to the Coinbase team. Well deserved. But it basically solidifies crypto. That means that if Coinbase is here, Bitcoin is not going anywhere, and there will be some altcoins that die, but there will be some winners in the alt market. As you're well aware, there's millions of altcoins. All of them won't be around, but this just solidifies crypto, Bitcoin. I mean, you should have known that by now. We have a pending strategic Bitcoin reserve on the federal level. States are passing their reserves. Arizona and New Hampshire right now have actual legislation in place for those states actually to start building their Bitcoin treasuries. So the writing's been on the wall. It's not a surprise. Shouldn't be a surprise to you, but definitely bullish for coin. But if we look at this on more of a lower time frame, let's look on the daily. And we can see that there was a huge gap and spike up in the price. If we just zoom into here, let's make it look a little bit prettier. Okay, so last week when we closed around 209, and because of that news, we got back up to 263. Current time, you see it's at 244. So is coin out the depths? What do we see? So this downwards resistance, actually with this news, it broke through this. So back in, this looks like 2021, got rejected here, got rejected late 21. And let's zoom into the most recent price action. We see another rejection, another 2 rejections. Then we actually had a breakout right here and had a breakout and actually a back test. And this is a failed back test because, the bump and run that we talk about, this didn't have any volume for continuation, and it actually fell back down into below that support there, or resistance. And right now, with that news, it's coming back up, and looks like we're just back testing this now again. So, will we have a run up to new all-time highs? Looking at coin, let's look at some of the indicators here. It looks like it still has some legs to go to the upside. Yeah, we could see, Coinbase going back up to potentially retest new all-time highs. And this is barring, once again, and this is not financial advice. This is what we see. This is our opinions. This is my opinion that I'm giving. So don't take this for what it is. Don't go put 100x leverage on coin and hop in all these call options. You have to do that. Do your own due diligence. Do your own research. This is just, what we see. So none of this is financial advice. But as we see here, this level right now seems to have a back test. This white line needs to hold. If this 20 moving average comes up and crosses and has a bullish cross against the 50 and 200 moving averages, looks good to me. So retesting previous highs, that's potentially in the cards. Let's look at just the diagonal. I know some people don't like to look at diagonals, but we look at horizontals and diagonals. Doesn't hurt. So yeah, it looks like there's a resistance looking to back to the left of the charts around that 260 range. So that's the level we want to pay attention to, 260. Because if we just draw a horizontal line here, we can see that that level seems to have been tested 1, 2, 3, 4, broke through it, fell back below it. It just hasn't held really ever. So that's the level we want to pay attention to, is 260. So that's what we have with the charts right there. And Aaron, I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, it's interesting with Coinbase. They when they originally got included in the S&P 500, if you want to pull that chart back up, I believe they went up like 20%, 20 to 25% in just a couple of days, and they came back down today because they actually had a security hack. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Brian Armstrong, he came out. He's like, the ransom for the data that the hacker stole was 20 million in Bitcoin, and he came out. He's like, we're not going to pay you the 20 million in Bitcoin, but we're going to put a 20 million reward on your head. So if anybody knew about those hackers, they could get $20 million reward, which I thought was pretty cool. A pretty cool way to, not let people, hack the organization in the future, which I just thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, if he would have gave into that, it would have been happening time and time again because he handled it the appropriate manner.
Right. Yeah, he definitely did. But what's interesting, they went up 20% in a day, S&P 500, around $16 billion of inflow in a couple of days. And I'm going to go ahead and show this chart right here. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to compare Coinbase to where Strategy is right now. I can share my screen here. If we look at the largest companies in the U.S. by market cap, we have Strategy here at a $110 billion market cap. And we have Coinbase, which is a lot lower than them. They're at a $62 billion market cap. So before they got added into the S&P, they were sitting around like $45 billion. And when they get added into the S&P, they're getting added and they're going to get allocation based on their rank of the top 500 U.S. companies. And they were sitting somewhere around 150 to 200. They got a $16 billion allocation, which is pretty substantial. And what Coinbase is going to do with that $16 billion, they're going to, pay employees. They're going to, invest in research and development. They're going to, their employees have, stock incentives with options. So they got to pay out those. So a lot of that's going to be paying expenses. But when Strategy gets included in the S&P, if we go back to Strategy, they're going to have a lot higher ranking. They're going to be potentially top 90 as of right now. But if Bitcoin continues to go up for, the next couple of months into Q2, Strategy could be top 50 companies if it continues to go up in the bullish momentum that we've been seeing over the past couple of months. And there's been estimates, if you compare where Coinbase was at that $16 billion market cap, or that $16 billion inflow they got, if you compare that to where Strategy could be around a $50 rating on the S&P 500, they're looking at anywhere from a 23 to $30 billion inflow. And Saylor, he's not gonna use that money, that inflow money. He's gonna tap the ATM. He's not gonna use it to pay employees. He's not investing in research and development. They're not buying AI chips. He's taking all that money that's coming from the S&P and putting that straight into Bitcoin. So realizing that, like a $30 billion Bitcoin buy, just at $100,000 Bitcoin, that's 300K Bitcoin. So that's like how much more Bitcoin they could easily pick up, going into the rest of the year if they do get included in the S&P. And then here's some key dates that you got to be watching out for the Strategy S&P inclusion countdown. We have the end of Q2. That's going to be June 30th. And then you have Strategy Q2 earnings. That's going to be July 31st. And the S&P ranking day is August 15th. The rebalance doesn't happen until September 19th. But the big day to really watch out for is the end of Q2 to see if they're going to qualify. That's going to be really based on the Bitcoin price. And also when it's announced, I think that's when you'll see the price of Strategy go to the moon, because people are going to be like, oh, we're going to front run all this inflow that they're about to get. And to talk a little bit about how much they need to, like what Bitcoin's price needs to be for them to get included in the S&P. I use ChatGPT for all this, guys. This is a lot of accounting stuff, so don't take this for verbatim, but this is what ChatGPT put together. So over the past 4 quarters, they've had a total net loss of around $5.33 billion. So at the end of Q2, they need to wipe out that entire net loss over the past 4 quarters for them to be included in the S&P. And basically for them to do that, according to ChatGPT, we share this tab here, the price where Bitcoin would have to close, it closed Q1 at around 83,000. And this is with them holding 528,000 Bitcoin. They obviously hold more than that now. But the price where they need to close at or where Bitcoin needs to close at is going to be around 93K for them to wipe out all of those earnings and show profitability for the first time in Q2. So if that happens, we'll probably see Strategy hit some of these days, and we'll see all those inflows come in, and we could really see the Strategy price go parabolic with people just front running it. There's going to be a lot of hype around that, and if they do get a $30 billion allocation, I mean that's a lot of Bitcoin that they'll be able to buy. So I mean, a lot of people. I think I saw there was something in the chat earlier. Somebody said $1 million Bitcoin by the end of the day, or 1 million Bitcoin for Strategy by the end of the year, and I think that's definitely doable for Strategy. So
yeah, Saylor's going hard. It's fair to say that they're probably going to be the number one as far as the company that owns the most Bitcoin. He's not slowing down, and once again, folks, Saylor's been operating publicly listed companies for decades, and there are some folks that have the same experience, but a lot of people on the Twitter Spaces, X Spaces, or pick your social media platform of choice, most are just new at this, and he's been doing this. So when you're complaining about what him and his team are doing, have a little patience, have a little faith. The strategy is working, and it's going to continue to work over time. That's just my unsolicited, non-financial advice.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about the ATM earlier, about people are complaining about that. It's so funny that they're complaining about the ATM because it's driving the price of the stock down. But every single time he hits the ATM, the debt that they have versus the Bitcoin they have, that like their debt ratio, like it gets bigger, like it gets way bigger. So that debt ratio, people don't realize, is also good for Strike and Strife, because to get for those products to get rated, they need a lot of allocation. They need money in those funds. They need, obviously confidence. It just goes with how long they've been out. But when there's not a lot of debt on the balance sheet and these two products are over collateralized, it helps for them to get rated. And when those products get rated, that's when you get like insurance companies and a lot of other companies with big pockets to buy Strike and Strife. And if you don't and one thing I heard about Strike, Sean, is I heard saylor say you can get 90% of the Bitcoin upside with none of the downside protection. So I think if these things like play out how he's talking about, and the reason why, guys, it's not just the 10% or 8% dividend you get with Strike, you get the conversion. If strategy goes up $1,000 to $1,000, you get the conversion for Strike to strategy shares. And when that happens, Strike is going to trade a lot closer with strategy. So it's really interesting once that product does that, like how the confidence will grow. And if you see a fixed income thing performing like Bitcoin, that's crazy to think about. I think a lot of people would be interested in investing in that, and it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of big players that product ends up attracting. And don't be surprised if we don't see the copycats come out, because, we are seeing a lot of other Bitcoin treasuries that are starting to spin up. Once again, they're not going to have as deep of pockets as saylor in Bitcoin value, in Bitcoin terms. So there might be some limitations, and also there is some cause for allocation, just because some of these companies might be experiencing FOMO, and in that feeling, they could over leverage, over collateralize. They could do a lot of different things that they wouldn't do in normal times, because they're feeling like time is not on their side, because saylor's had almost a 5-year head start for all these companies that are starting to buy.
Yeah, definitely. And you see the chart here. You can see all the companies that are buying, and there's even more that are buying every single day. But you got to do it if you're going to invest in these companies because you think they're going to outperform Bitcoin or they're going to outperform strategy. Be careful and do your due diligence, like Sean was talking about, because a lot of these companies are going to get over leveraged, and they're not all going to keep a very small leverage ratio like strategy has right now. Strategy, the leverage ratio is like 10% of their Bitcoin assets versus their debt outstanding. And if Bitcoin goes all the way down, I think like the price is like $14,000, they'll still have more Bitcoin USD value versus what they have in debt. But a lot of these other companies, just because they're doing the strategy playbook doesn't mean that they're going to have the risk management like strategy. So always make sure to do your due diligence, look at their books. Strategy and some other companies have, if you go to strategy.com, you can see everything real time right on that website, their debt, all their fixed income products. You can see the strategy price, the Bitcoin price, how much Bitcoin they can have. They have all that on there. And some other companies that followed suit with that. I think like Semler has done that, and I think maybe Metaplanet as well. But a lot of these other companies are just buying into the hype, hoping that people buy the stock because they're buying Bitcoin. So that's going to continue to happen as well. So people have to watch out for that.
For people that are on X, if you literally just type in Bitcoin treasuries and see the top posts over the past 24 hours, you'll see this news pop up, that news pop up. We'll get into that during this live stream, but yeah, it reminds me of when coins used to be listed on Coinbase or Binance. When the brand new coin would come out, it would pop up the first day. So just be mindful of that, guys. It's not just because they're following saylor's and strategies, Bitcoin strategy, doesn't mean they're going to have the same result as strategy as far as price action goes. But on the flip side, there's opportunity too. When, as Aaron had mentioned, when the numbers make sense, when the books are all in order, when the risk is not being over levered, that is there's definitely some opportunity there as well. So just be mindful of that, guys.
Definitely. And there's one company that I wanted to talk about in specific, and it is this company right here. BDC Enterprise. The reason why I wanted to bring this up, Sean, just want to get your thoughts on this. This is, I think this is the first Chinese public company, and they plan to buy 5,000 Bitcoin. And the only reason why I find this interesting is because of the history China has had with Bitcoin. So, yeah, just any thoughts there, Sean?
Yeah, China has tried to ban Bitcoin countless times since Bitcoin's inception in the global economy. So that's definitely interesting. But we won't talk about the regime there, and that's a whole different conversation, a rabbit hole. But they're buying, let me see, 5,000. That's what, 500 billion ish worth of Bitcoin in one swoop. But so my first thought, speaking to our audience, is as you see, there's only 21 million Bitcoin, and this is one company out of many now that are buying troughs of Bitcoin, 5,000 at a time, 100 at a time. Sailor's buying, you know, even you guys know his numbers, but this should be motivation for anybody that has not gotten to that one Bitcoin yet. They should at least try their best. If you gotta go get a second job, whatever your situation is, just try your best to keep dollar cost averaging, because the the tidal wave of money, the big wave of money people have been talking about over the past decade. And we were sort of speculating, like, where would this wave of money come? Well, the ETFs got passed, and that was the first wave. And now you're seeing institutions seeing what happened with Saylor. Like, Saylor 100x this company within 5 years, and while everybody else sat on the sidelines. And basically, he gave the world the blueprint of what he did. And now these companies are basically getting the same thing that we get on the retail side, FOMO, fear of missing out. So when people get fearful, what do? They over lever. They start to take out HELOC loans. They start to, take out private loans. They start to borrow this and borrow that and borrow against that. And a lot of people, some that I know personally, have did those types of things, and at the top of markets. And then they don't have diamond hands, and then the bear market comes and Bitcoin retraces, and they levered their house and maxed out their HELOC loan, and now they're stuck paying that for 4 years, or selling off their Bitcoin to, make it make sense so they don't got to pay that monthly payment. So this should motivate folks to try to get to that one Bitcoin if you're not already trying to do that, because this has been talked about for years. We've talked about this for years on the channel. And now this is quarter one of, well, I guess it's quarter one for institutions, but the ETF's been going on for almost a year and a half now. And Saylor's been at it 5 years. So there's only 21 million folks.
Yeah, definitely only 21 million. Yes, it's interesting. And people who are if you're new to Bitcoin, if you're new to strategy, what we've said on our channel we've been doing this for 4 years now. And we used to talk a lot about altcoins. I think we've turned a little bit into Bitcoin maxis after, altcoins haven't, performed as well. But we always said get one Bitcoin before getting any other altcoin. And I think that still stands true in the fact that if you're looking to invest into strategy or any of these other Bitcoin proxy companies, or if you're still looking at some of the altcoins, one Bitcoin may be unattainable for a lot of people now because it's such a big number, over 6 figures, but at least try to get 0.1 Bitcoin. Keep Bitcoin as your, in my personal opinion, is not financial advice, as your biggest holding in your portfolio when it comes to investing in these strategy companies, investing in Bitcoin. Get at least 0.1 BTC. If you can get one Bitcoin, get one Bitcoin before investing in any altcoins or even strategy itself. Like I said, that's not financial advice, but as we've seen time and time again over the past 10 years, all these coins come and go. We've seen Dogecoin come and go. We've seen there's been so many coins. Cardano hasn't held up. All these coins that have come out and have had so much hype. We've been in it since 2017, and There were altcoins back then. One was called Potcoin that we got in, and we made some money on, but that's probably nowhere to be seen now. But Bitcoin has been the one that's held the test of time, and it's been the best performing asset year after year after year after year. So just if you're new, try to get at least 0.1 Bitcoin and start your portfolio there. And then you can, even like with this chart that you can see here, you can see the potential where Bitcoin is. We know Bitcoin is a better gold. Gold has $22 trillion of money in it. Bitcoin only has 2 trillion. So you can see that's a 10x right there. And then you have the bond market and the money markets and the equity markets. Bitcoin's probably going to eat all this stuff over the next 10 years. And a lot of that has to do with what strategy is doing with a lot of these fixed income products, with all, these corporations selling their equity. They're selling their equity to buy Bitcoin. So that's taking from the equity market and putting it into the Bitcoin. So right now, the equity market, probably the gold market, I think we talked about this on the last live stream. There's more owners of Bitcoin in the US than gold in the US. So Bitcoin is demonetizing the gold market, it's demonetizing the equity market with companies like Strategy tapping the ATM, selling their equity for Bitcoin. And it's going to hit the bond market next, and that's with like the fixed income products, like what Strategy is doing. He's trying to get 1% of that market, which is $3 trillion. But I think that could be a lot more because we've seen inflation continue to come down. Inflation came out a couple of weeks ago, or I think actually it was this week. It came out at 2.3%. So as inflation comes down, and if it goes below 2%, we're going to see the Federal Reserve. They're going to lower interest rates. So when they lower interest rates, those bond yields are going to go down. They're like 4% right now, but they're going to go down to 2, 3, 2, 1%. When that happens, a lot of these companies are going to be like, oh, this Strife, this STRK, they've been performing great for the past 3 years. Why don't we put some allocation, get away from the bonds and put it into these products? They're giving us 8 to 10% or even more, and these bonds are only giving us 1 to 2%. It's kind of like it's a no-brainer. So just don't think Bitcoin is too expensive where it is right now. I think when we first got in, we thought Bitcoin was too expensive, and it was $800. So I think that's just for new people joining. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about that. Yeah. Is there anything you got to add to that, Sean, or we want to go to the next topic?
Yeah, just get off zero. That's the most important thing is just get off zero by any means necessary. Don't have unit bias. That's where a lot of people suffer from unit bias. Meaning, when you see something being 100,000 versus something being, $5, I can't recount how many times I've heard, people tell me, just strangers, families, and friends saying that, oh yeah, Dogecoin is, if it goes up to what Ethereum's at or where Bitcoin is, then, I'll be worth $100 million or whatever. And that's just not understanding really what you're even investing in. Because if you just look at the math, the numbers don't even make sense. That won't happen. So just don't have unit bias when it comes to Bitcoin. Understand that Bitcoin is the scarcest asset in the world. The market's already spoken. The market has already told you that Bitcoin is, I'm not going to say the winner, but it's been chosen. Institutions are buying it. States are buying it in the U.S. Nation states are buying it. Nations are going to be buying it. The U.S., the elite are going to be continuing to gobble up all the Bitcoin. So sometimes you guys sit and look and see, okay, what are the rich guys doing? Maybe I might want to look there.
Yeah. Here's a question from Kyle. Came earlier. I missed it. He says, "What do you see for strategy next week?" You can read the charts if you want to be a day trader, but you got to have a long-term approach when investing in a strategy, Bitcoin, any of this stuff. It's a long-term game. It could be at 200 next week. It could be at 600 next week. Nobody knows.
Yeah. Just have a strategy. Have a strategy to dollar cost average. And then my question to that is, once again, if you're day trading, if you're doing options, short-term options, that volatility can pack your bags and, to the upside, you can make some money very quickly, but then you can see your investment go to zero very quickly as well. So, we're not going to speculate on call options a week out. That's a little bit degen, if you ask me. Some people are good at it, but most of the market gets handed to them for the ones that try to do that. So, for whatever that's worth.
Okay. Okay. So next topic would be investing in Bitcoin versus the Mag 7. What are your thoughts there? Do you think people should have like a diversified portfolio, like where they put some in Bitcoin, some in the Mag 7, like Tesla, Apple, Google, those companies? Any thoughts there?
Um, it depends on the investor. It depends on the individual and their risk appetite. Um, I think crypto, Bitcoin specifically, is a lot more volatile. So can be your friend to the upside. But for somebody that is in a different season of their life, Q4 of their life, and they're looking towards retirement, they might not want as much volatility and some stability. Now, there's a caveat to that with Mag 7. I think the Mag 7 will be severely changed over the next decade. I don't think there will be the Mag 7 as we know it. I think strategy, potentially companies like Coinbase, depending on the growth in their business strategy moving forward, and other potential Bitcoin treasuries that are doing things the right way. I think those are going to be the companies that people are going to be looking at as the staple or that Mag 7 moving forward. And right now, this is still the early innings of it, and that's where the biggest opportunity lies.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would say with the Mag 7, you don't have a single point of failure with Bitcoin, but with Mag 7, you have a lot of points of failure. Bitcoin is very boring. It's digital gold. It's not going to change. It's probably going to be the same it is right now. 10 years from now, the only thing that changes is the halving. So it's going to be more scarce in 10 years. But with all these Mag 7 companies, they're all really competing with one another. You got Google, they have Waymo. You got Tesla's trying to put out their self-driving cars. You got Apple, who hasn't changed the iPhone in 15 years, and they're continuing to be one of the biggest companies in the world. There's a lot of competition there, and there's a lot of, you don't really know who's going to be winning in a couple years, let alone next year. And talking about volatility, what really showed us something with Mag 7 versus Bitcoin is with Trump tariffs. That's kind of like a black swan event. People knew it was coming, but that affects all of those companies, all their imports. Everything they import is going to be, with the Chinese tariffs, their imports were raised however much percent those tariffs were. I think it was 100+%. So that affects all their entire company. They may have to do layoffs. They may have to, raise money. That affects them. But with Bitcoin, there's not much that can really affect it. Like in the political sphere, they can try to ban it, but the entire world is accepting Bitcoin for digital gold right now. So I don't see that happening. I actually view Bitcoin as less risky than the Mag 7, and that's probably just because we've been in the Bitcoin space so long. And
yeah, there's a lot less counterparty risk when it comes to like you mentioned, the tariffs are paused or whatever game they're playing, and that could be strategic to pull the markets back to spring them up. But to your point, there's no counterparty risk with Bitcoin. There's no CEO. Bitcoin doesn't care.
Yeah, and we saw it in the price too. Like when the tariffs got announced, Mag 7. I don't know if Tesla's recovered yet. It might be back up now, but a lot of those Mag 7 companies, they were down more than Bitcoin, and that's just never seen that before. So so we'll see what happens over the next 5-10 years. But yeah, any other topics you want to go over, Sean?
I think we can just sort of pivot to the Bitcoin Treasury conversation because that's sort of a hot topic right now. And we'll what was mentioned earlier on in this live stream. So give me one quick second. And we'll start here. So this is just like I had mentioned, if you just do the Bitcoin Treasury search over the past 24 hours, you see posts like this popping up left and right. Some companies have been around for some time, like the Semler and MetaPlanet since last year, but you're starting to see these newer companies like Fold App. They increased their HODL to 1490 Bitcoin. And you can see that they're just basically developing their whatever this company's Bitcoin strategy or Bitcoin Treasury growth play is. So once again, it's nice to see this, and this could be a good thing long term over the next 5-10 years for this company. As far as if you're looking to invest it, once again, you want to take a look and just see what their books are, what their overall game plan is, and things of that sort. The next one we'll take a look at. We'll just show this really quick. Eric Semler. This is from Semler's been in the space since last year. And there's something interesting. I wanted to show this post here where it says all Bitcoin treasury companies are normally valued around 1.5 to 3x of their net asset values, meaning how many Bitcoin they hold. And the way you calculate that, how many Bitcoin they have, multiplied by the Bitcoin price, that's how much their net asset value is. So currently, Semler is trading at a 0.9 NAV. And that's literally crazy. Now, there's opportunity, but there's also risk, because is Semler going to continue to operate in a capacity that's going to continue their growth over time? Of the past year, so I think they've been in the space. They have been executing pretty well. I know there was a legal, nothing dealing with their Bitcoin holding, but there was some type of legality they had to get through, and they got past that, and that temporarily paused their Bitcoin buying. But I think they've started up since then. But this is just an example of this could be an opportunity, or this could be a company that might potentially fail with the Bitcoin strategy. And that might be where we see the bubble burst for this bear cycle. There could be a Bitcoin treasury company that is getting extremely over levered, and then Bitcoin has a pullback. It could be 10 to 20%, depending on what type of tools they're using to scale their Bitcoin strategy. And that could be what shocks the market and causes that next downturn once that peak comes. But this is just one example here with Semler. I don't know if you wanted to mention anything on that, Aaron.
Yeah, I can just chime in real quick. That net asset value, when you see that 0.0 net asset value, that literally means that the amount of Bitcoin that they hold is more than their market cap. So if their market cap is $900 million, that means they're going to be holding $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. So people are looking at that and saying, hey, Semler's at a massive discount. We should go and buy some of it. Now, one thing that, I don't know is, do they act in net asset value, does it include the debt of the company as well? Because a company could have $1 billion of Bitcoin but be in $2 billion worth of debt. And
yeah, I think it includes that. That's why it's a net. Okay. So
gotcha. So yeah, so it's a net asset. So yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, that means this is just trading at a huge discount. $1 billion of Bitcoin, their market cap's probably somewhere around $900 million. That's just an example. I can look it up to see what their market cap is exactly.
So while he's looking that up, the thought process is when Bitcoin goes up in price, this company holds Bitcoin. Right now, their net asset value is sub 1, which for these Bitcoin treasury companies, we've been seeing 1 to 2.5 on average. So when the price goes up, that net asset value should expand for Semler. How much it'll expand? Will it go to 2, 3, 4? Nobody will know. But if it expands, that's where you as an investor have the opportunity to buy when the net asset value is contracted.
Yeah, here's the actual data so you guys can see it. Bitcoin balance, they have $377 million worth of Bitcoin, but their market cap is $368 million. We saw this a lot for strategy in the bear market, but obviously they've been at a premium to their net asset value since probably a year ago, maybe more than that, maybe a year and a half ago. They've been trading at least at 2x. I think the highest they've got was around 3x, but it does look like similar, not financial advice, could be a great opportunity to buy at a discount.
Yep. The next thing we wanted to show and share is this company here, the blockchain group, tickers ALTBG. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on with this company. One of the latest that they just announced over the past week was this convertible bond issuance with Adam Beck. And for those who don't know who Adam Beck is, he is an OG Bitcoiner. You can check him out here on his Twitter, Adam3US. And just really quick, just sort of showing you how far back he goes into the crypto space. This is just a quick Wikipedia search on Adam Beck. But if you look right here, he was one of the first 2 people to receive emails from Satoshi. So he's been in Bitcoin since Bitcoin's been a thing. So this company here, the blockchain group, actually he has some ownership of this company, and this company is the first Bitcoin Treasury company based out of the EU. They're based out of France. So we know that this ticker is available on Fidelity on the state side, but I think you have to call into their international desk to gain access to it. So once again, not financial advice, but this company, I believe, has about 620 Bitcoin. So they're just getting started over the past 6 months, but the Bitcoin per share value has went up, I think, over 600 to 700% over the past 6 months. So that's definitely accretive for investors in this business. So just something to check out. Another one that we've seen in the X spaces, this company, and I might chop this name up, Milayas. Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure how it's exactly pronounced. But they're starting their Bitcoin treasury too, and they acquired another 274 Bitcoin at around $28 million, a Bitcoin yield of 600%. So when you see these announcements happen, that's what we were talking about. Like, this stock is definitely going to shoot up in the short term. Now, the bigger question is, like, if you look at a company like Metaplanet has basically been buying probably more rapidly than Saylor did for MicroStrategy, now Strategy, back 4 or 5 years ago. Metaplanet is buying at a more aggressive rate than him. And so you just want to understand, like, what the gameplay is from the company's executive staff, the CEO. Is this a one-time buy? They're just buying 320 Bitcoin, or are they really adopting the Bitcoin strategy that Saylor's doing over there? So this is the CEO, Israel Salman. This is Brazil's first first public Bitcoin treasury company. So these are becoming a normalcy in the crypto space, and Bitcoin's definitely went corporate globally. And then just to piggyback on another company, this is a UK public company. They're raising 1.25 million euros to adopt a Bitcoin strategy. So this is, as you see, all these posts were from today. So this is like the new shiny things that are going on in the space. But But just understand there's going to be winners and losers, and you need to really understand what you're investing into, what the books look like for these businesses before you get invested, what the strategy is for these businesses, who these companies are partnered with. Yeah, I don't know if you had anything to say on that, Aaron.
No, I think it's self-evident where Bitcoin is going. Everybody wants to get the 100x altcoin gems. See it in our comment section still. People talking about altcoins, but I think you need to have a long-term view on investing in Bitcoin, investing in strategy. You can get lucky and maybe hit an altcoin, but 95% of the time, Bitcoin is going to outperform altcoins. There's little periods of time where altcoins outperform. And you can see where all the companies are buying. They're buying Bitcoin. They're not buying Ethereum or Solana or Theta or whatever your favorite altcoin is. They're not buying it. They're not buying Solana. They're not buying any meme coins. So it's showing where Bitcoin is going. And yeah, I think if you are in the space or if you've been in the space for any time, you should be excited for what is to come for BTC over the next 5 to 10 years, because now the regulation is clear for Bitcoin to thrive. And yeah, I think you should be excited for what's coming next. So
100%. Just wanted to close with this before we shut it down. But so if you did what typically worked in previous cycles and invested heavily into altcoins towards the bottom of the bear market, which was, I believe, mid-2023, the way you look at this chart is just not a Bitcoin dominance chart. You need to understand really why this is important. And if we get our price range, and let's just say you divested, say you had one whole Bitcoin, just for an example, and you divested that entire Bitcoin into whatever shiny token or your favorite 5 tokens of choice, your US dollar value may have nominally went up. But as you see here, this Bitcoin dominance from June of 23 to present day has went up 32%. So that means that one Bitcoin that you had lost on average 32% across the crypto space. Now, have things outperformed Bitcoin? Yes, Solana has, and a few others have. But there's millions of cryptos in the overall ecosystem. So you're always going to have those outliers. But across the board, Bitcoin outperformed the entire market by 22%. 32%. So that's just something to be mindful of. So your one Bitcoin would now be worth 1 minus 0.32%. My math, I'm tired right now. 68%. It'd be 60.68 Bitcoin. So that's how you're supposed to sort of analyze these charts, understand, denominate your portfolio in Bitcoin value, not US dollar value. That your denominator should be Bitcoin.
Yep, totally agree with you, Sean. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over, or we can wrap it up?
I think we touched base on everything. We'll be doing this once again every week, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so make sure, if you haven't did it already, like this, subscribe, share it with your friends, family. We're here for you. Like, we've been doing this every day for years, making videos. Now we're hoping to interact with you guys on these daily live streams. We will be bringing some people on the channel in the future. And once again, Bitcoin conference coming up in about a little less, almost a week and a half. Bitcoin Bros will be there. So if you're going to Vegas, make sure that you guys don't be afraid to come speak. That's why we're there. We're there to speak, hang out, kick it, all the above. So that's all that I have, Aaron.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next one. Appreciate you for tuning in. Like you said, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we have something big coming soon for you guys. So make sure to catch the next live stream to learn more about that. But we're out, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.